A new AI model dies every few weeks, and almost nobody notices because there's already a replacement waiting in the wings. And I'm not talking about models getting shut down by companies. I mean they become completely obsolete, forgotten, replaced so fast that even people working in AI can barely keep up. So what's actually happening here? And more importantly, what does this mean for you if you're trying to use AI or build something with it? Look, the AI space right now is like watching a car factory that's producing a new vehicle every 3 days. 6 months ago, everyone was obsessed with Claude 2. Before that, GPT-4 was going to be the end-all be-all. Now we've got Claude 3 Opus, Gemini, Grok, Llama 3, Mistral. The list just keeps growing. And here's the wild part. Most of these models are actually really good, but they get eclipsed so quickly that the previous generation just vanishes from conversation. People stop using them. Companies stop supporting them. They're not dead in the technical sense, but they're dead in the way that matters. Nobody cares about them anymore. The reason this is happening is actually pretty straightforward. The competition to build the best AI model has become insane. Every major tech company, OpenAI, Google, Meta, Anthropic, even startups you've never heard of, they're all racing to release something that's slightly smarter, slightly faster, or slightly cheaper than what came before. And because the barrier to entry for releasing a model has gotten lower, you've got more players in the game than ever. It's not like the phone wars where you had maybe 5 major manufacturers. With AI models, you've got dozens of organizations trying to get attention and market share. But here's where it gets interesting. The speed of replacement isn't actually random. There's a pattern. When a new model comes out that's measurably better at something, whether that's coding, math, reasoning, or just being faster, it creates this cascade. Users switch over. Developers build tools around it. Content creators make videos about it. And suddenly the previous model becomes yesterday's news. It's not that it got worse overnight. It's that the new thing is better, and in a world where better is released every month, good enough becomes invisible. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but doesn't that mean the models that are dying had real value? And the answer is absolutely yes. If you were using Claude 2 for your work 3 months ago, it was genuinely useful. It probably still is. But here's the problem with that thinking. If you're building something important on a model that's going to be obsolete in 6 months, you're building on sand. The companies behind these models don't owe you long-term support. They're focused on the next thing. Documentation disappears. APIs get deprecated. The community moves on. And suddenly you're stuck maintaining something that nobody's helping you with anymore. This is actually creating a really weird dynamic in the AI ecosystem right now. On one hand, you've got these massive improvements happening incredibly fast. The capability jump from GPT-3 to GPT-4 was enormous. The jump from GPT-4 to whatever comes next will probably be enormous too. But on the other hand, that speed means there's less time for any single model to become truly stable or deeply integrated into workflows. It's like trying to build a house while the foundation is being replaced every few weeks. So what actually replaces these dying models? The answer is the next one that's slightly better at something that matters. And that something changes depending on who you ask. For researchers, it might be a model that performs better on benchmarks. For businesses, it might be one that's cheaper to run at scale. For creators, it might be one that's easier to use or produces better creative output. There's no single replacement because there's no single use case. The ecosystem is fragmenting. What's really interesting is that this is actually healthy in some ways. Competition drives innovation. The fact that we're seeing this rapid iteration means the technology is moving fast. But it's also creating this weird graveyard of perfectly functional models that just nobody uses anymore. Somewhere, there's probably a company still running on DaVinci or an older GPT model because it works fine for their use case. But they're basically invisible now. They're not part of the conversation. Here's what I think you should actually care about. If you're deciding whether to build something on top of an AI model, don't ask whether the model is good. Ask whether the model is going to have support and community 6 months from now. Because that's what determines whether your project survives. A slightly worse model with a stable API and good documentation is way more valuable than the best model in the world if it's going to be abandoned in 3 months. The other thing that matters is thinking about the actual problem you're solving, not the specific model you're using. If you're using an AI model to do something, You want to build your system in a way that you can swap out models without completely rewriting everything. That's becoming a critical skill because the models are going to keep changing. The winners in this space aren't going to be the people who picked the right model. They're going to be the people who built systems that can adapt when the model gets replaced. And that's actually where the real story is. The models aren't dying because they're bad. They're dying because they're being replaced by slightly better versions. And in a world where the technology is advancing this fast, that's just what happens. It's like asking what happened to the iPhone 12. It's not dead. People just use the iPhone 15 now. Except with AI models, the replacement cycle is measured in months instead of years. So if you're trying to keep up with what's actually happening in AI, instead of just reading headlines about the latest model release, you need to understand this replacement cycle. Because it's not going to slow down. If anything, it's going to speed up. And the companies that win are going to be the ones that understand how to build on top of something that's constantly changing. If you want to actually understand what's happening in AI without getting caught up in the hype cycle around every new model release, subscribe. I break down this stuff every few days so you're not scrambling to figure out what matters.